We're going to apply the product property first because there's a plus sign right here. So we're going to use the product property to condense. I want to take these two common logs and make them one single common log. So we're going to have a common log base 10, and what we're going to do is write this times this together in parentheses. So in parentheses, we're going to have the 3m minus 5 times m. So I'm putting, what I did was take both common logs, write them as one single common log. I took this guy, put it here, this guy, put it here, and we're going to multiply them together now. This is what we call condensing using the product property. Now let me distribute m times 3m, that'll be 3m squared. M times negative 5, that's negative 5m. So what I really have is 3m squared minus 5m in parentheses and a common log of that. Now when I say common log, we don't even need to write the 10, because if you don't have a 10 down there, you automatically assume it's a common log, which means that it's base 10. So do we see how we took both of these logarithms and made them one single logarithm? All right, good. So now on the other side, we have common log of 2. And now we really do have one common log of the whole left side and another common log of the whole right side. Now we could get rid of that common log by raising both sides to be the power of base 10, which means that they just cancel out. So you have a new equation that's a quadratic equation. 3m squared minus 5m equals 2. And since we have this quadratic equation, it'd be a good idea to move everything to one side to have it equal 0. That way you could use the quadratic formula if you want, or you could try to factor, split, and solve. So let me move the 2 over, subtract 2 here, subtract 2 over here. You're not actually going to do it, you're just going to rewrite it. It's going to be 3m squared minus 5m minus 2. And of course, that is equal to 0. So now at this point, you could use the quadratic formula if you'd like. All you need to do is recognize that this is A, this is B, this is C. Or you could use factoring by grouping. You guys remember factoring by grouping? To factor, split, and solve. It's up to you. I think I did an example already with the quadratic formula. Let me try to do factoring by grouping just to remind you of it. Step 1 is to multiply A times C, and that is 3 times negative 2, which is negative 6. Step 2 is to think of the multiples of negative 6 that combine together to give you the middle value, which is negative 5. So I'm going to actually just make a list. How could I get negative 6? It's either negative 1 times 6 or negative 2 times 3. So which pair of numbers actually gives us the middle value B, which is negative 5? Well, that would be these two pair of numbers. However, if you add negative 1 plus 6, you get a positive 5. And we know that this is supposed to be a negative 5. So we have the right numbers, we just have the wrong signs. So I'm going to put a plus right here and a negative on the 6. I'm going to change both signs. The third step is probably the most interesting one when we factor by grouping, is where we convert the trinomial 3m squared minus 5m minus 2 into a polynomial. We're going to change this middle value, negative 5m, we're going to change it to a negative 1 or positive 1 and m minus 6m. So the 3m squared is still going to be the same, 3m squared, but the minus 5m is going to become plus 1m and then minus 6m. And then at the very end we still have the minus 2. And of course it's still equal to 0. So we really have, instead of 1, 2, 3 terms, we have 4 terms. Now, why would we want to do that? So we could factor by grouping. In the first group, what could we pull out? M. In the second group, what would be left if I pull out an M? You would have a 3M plus 1. In the second group, what could I pull out? A negative 2. And if I do pull out a negative 2, what's going to be left on the inside? 3M plus 1 also. And of course, this is all still equal to 0. Now, the next step on factoring by grouping is to take a step back and look at both groups and pull out what's in common. which in this case is the binomial 3m plus 1. I'm going to pull that 3m plus 1 outside. So I'm going to take both of these and put it right here. So there it is. I took the 3m plus 1 on both of them, pulled it out here. Now what would be left if I pulled out the 3m plus 1 from here? This m is going to come down, so that's going to be an m right there. And if I pulled out the 3m plus 1 over here, the minus 2 is going to come down. And I'm going to have a minus 2 in there. So now this is the completely factored form. I'm still going to bring down the equals 0. But now I truly have something times something equals 0, which means that I could use a zero product property to split them and solve. So we need more space, but if I did take the 3m plus 1, this 3m plus 1, and put it equal to 0, I'm going to do it up here. And if I solved it, let me draw a line so we don't get confused. If I solved it, I'm going to end up with 3m equals negative 1, which means that m, if I divide both sides by 3, equals negative 1/3. So there's one answer, m equals negative 1/3. Now you're supposed to do the other one. The other one is m minus 2 could also equal 0. The zero product property, 3m plus 1 equals 0, m minus 2 could also equal 0. Let me write that down. M minus 2 could also equal 0, which means that m is equal to 2. So we have those two answers. However, we need to double check and make sure that those answers don't produce negative values inside the logarithms of the original equation. So if I take 2 and put it right here, 3m, 3 times 2 is 6, 6 take away 5 is a positive number, we're good. If I take 2, put it right here, that's a positive number, we're good. If I take negative 1/3 and put it right here, 3 times negative 1/3, that's negative 1, and negative 1 minus 5, that's negative 6. So that does not work. So that's when we say this guy is an extraneous solution. It's not a real answer, it's an extra answer that doesn't work. So the only real answer for number 17 is 2. So yeah, maybe this was too long of a process. You might want to get to here, and once you identify A, B, and C, you might want to use the quadratic formula. Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A.